Hey plant lovers! Today we are going to show you the process of deep watering some of our plants in the home. We have already shown you our process of soaking our 30+ orchids, and so today we're going to show you how we deep water some of our larger plants, the trees in our home. So we've got our tools ready to go, our trusty bucket, which I'm going to fill with tap water, and I'm also going to add tap water conditioner to it to prep that. Now some folks leave their water out overnight, or they use distilled water, or they use spring water. We have found that just using some tap water conditioner preps that water right away for us, so we do not have to go through the waiting process. We've had really good luck using this. Today I'm not going to fertilize my plants, although we do tend to do that about every other time we water. Aside from a couple of plants that we have in our home, we use this same watering process for every plant that we have. Everything from our large fiddle-leaf figs to our ficus tree, down to our little baby jade plants. And the reason that we do that is because deep watering is incredibly important. You want to fully saturate the soil when you water your plant. That is not what causes overwatering problems. Overwatering problems are caused by poor drainage and not letting your plant dry out fully in between, or dry out to the level that the plant needs it, that specific plant. So let me show you what this looks like for this guy. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do this in stages. I'll start by saturating the soil one time. I'll move throughout the room, and I'll do that same thing to the other large plants that are in this room, such as this guy. This is the base of our ficus tree. I'll do that same thing, and then I'm going to come back about 20 minutes later, and I'm going to see if water has soaked through to the base and started to come out the bottom here. Now this guy I've already done once, and you can see that there's some water coming out of the bottom right here. Once it starts to come out in that bottom of the tray, that is when I know that I've watered them enough. The reason that I do it as a process for the larger plants, the reason that I go around every 20 or so minutes to check the base, is because I don't want those ones to overflow. I want them to be fully saturated, and I want that water to start coming out of the bottom into the tray below, but I can't move those guys, okay? You should see me try. I can't lift them up and empty that saucer out into the sink or anywhere else. So if I overflow those onto the floor here, I'm ruining the floors. It's a different process for something like this guy, where I can either pull this entire container out and saturate it through fully until water comes streaming out of the bottom, and I can do that over a kitchen sink. Or if this were planted directly into this pot, I could simply let it flow into the small basin right here and just dump that tray into the sink. I don't have that option with some of my larger trees, so I do have to go through and do it as a process the way that I'm showing you right now. So let me take you on a bit of a tour of the plants that we do this process for. This is our corn plant, and this guy's gotten quite large. It actually does bloom at certain times of the year and gives off, those blooms give off just a lovely, lovely scent. This guy we need to repot sometime soon. You'll notice that we're getting some yellowing leaves right here. It takes a lot of nutrients, and there's just not a lot left in the soil here. That's pretty old soil. So that'll be a future project that we have, but this is one of the plants that we have to deep water in that method that I showed you. And here's another one, the star of the video earlier. This is one of my favorite fiddle leaf figs, kind of cut in sort of a bonsai shape. This guy's really old. I'll have to ask my father-in-law just how old it is actually, since he started this plant and we sort of adopted it, but one of my favorite plants in the home. The star of many videos and the plant that is, kind of the contender for our home search, the large ficus that's in the living room here. And there's also this guy above the closet, needs a lot of pruning right now, so don't judge. But since we can't lift him down in any sort of way, we also do a same stationary deep watering of that plant. My Monstera deliciosa, which, sorry about the lighting on this one. I could probably lift this one and drain it into the sink, and I have done that when I've wanted to give it a bath, but it's starting to get a little bit unruly, so I'm trying not to move it as often. And our bird of paradise over here, which was star of our repotting video, still adjusting to that new pot, so we're losing a couple of leaves on that guy, but still looking quite lovely. And this one is a Norfolk Island pine. It's actually a tropical plant, island pine. We use that as a holiday tree every year. Top has been cut off several times, but also one of my favorites. You've seen the umbrella tree or the schefflera in one of our videos where we cut off the top of that. This guy hasn't moved in a little while. Next to it is a fig tree, which fun, we're getting some baby figs right now. And we could probably move that fig tree around a little bit, but it's a little delicate, so I don't want to do that. But we also do a deep watering process for those guys as well. Deep watering and stationary. And last but certainly not least is our other fiddle leaf fig here. And this guy has a little bit different shape and form to him. Smaller one in the bottom, and we have another kind of a grassy plant planted in the base here too. This was really fun to try to move into this room. Tale for another time. So one of the big questions is, how do you know when it's time to water your plants again, right? I've just told you that you need to deep water your plants, fully saturate them. How do you know when it's time to water them again? And we know that each plant is going to be a little bit different, but in general, you want to wait until they're at least partially dried out. So depending on what plant it is, you're going to use a method to test the dryness of the soil. And you can use a couple of different things. You can use your good old finger, stick your finger right in the soil, a couple of inches down just to see if the top couple of inches of soil are dry. This method works for some of the tropical plants that don't need to dry out quite as fully as some of the other plants. You can also use a stick, something like a chopstick, or a support tool of some type that will collect soil on it. If it collects a lot of soil, this is kind of like a baker's method, right? If you stick a toothpick in it and it collects a lot of stuff on it, it's still really moist, it's not fully baked. Same idea goes here for checking if your plant is still too wet, if the soil is still too wet. One of my favorite tools to use though, and I've probably talked about this in some of my other videos, is a moisture meter. That looks like this. This is placed into the soil. It sits there for a few moments, and then this meter reads how moist the soil is. And depending on what type of plant you have, that gives you a more accurate reading of whether or not it is ready to be watered or not. Some plants like to be watered when they're in this dry zone. Some like to be watered when they're in the moist zone. Pretty much no plant really wants to be watered when they're in the wet zone. But I love to use this tool. It doesn't, I'll be honest, it doesn't work for all soil types, but it is a go-to in my house. So at this point you may be going, Angela, wait, are you sure that I can do this same process to my succulents and all of my other plants, my pothos, my everything? Yes, you can. You can absolutely fully saturate your plants, and your plants will thank you for it. Instead of taking small sips of water and not fully satisfying their thirst, your plants will thank you for giving them a deep drink. And to show you that I truly mean it, take a look at this guy. This is one of our cactuses who's now in bloom for springtime. We do not water this plant very often at all, but when we do water it, we water it fully. We let that water flow all the way through the soil until water comes out the bottom. But when we water it again, we make sure that soil dries fully, because that is what this plant wants. This plant wants to be dry, have its soil dried completely before it is watered again. Not all plants want that. A good majority of them do want to be pretty dry before you water them again. But, you know, every plant has different needs as far as watering goes, and as far as lighting goes, and as far as everything else goes. But one thing that I can tell you is that for the most part, they don't want little sips of water. That is not the case. And when you are overwatering, that is not from your one-time fully saturated water use. It is something else that is causing root rot, that is causing overwatering issues. It could be frequency, it could be a soil type, it could be any number of things. But if I can share one lesson I've learned with you, it's that your plants want that full drink of water when you are giving them water. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, and continue to follow us. We have new videos every Thursday. Thanks.